Good evening. My name is Robert Gidisu, and I am presenting the webinar for today. The topic for today is finance and project management and understanding and aligning finance with project, program, and portfolio management. First, before I start, I will want to take this opportunity to thank PMI Ghana chapter and the Professional Development Online webinar group for giving me this opportunity to do the presentation. Bear with me as we go through this. This is going to be a learning curve for all of us. I'm used to presenting through Skype, but not through Google Hangout. But before we start, I would like to look at the agenda for the day and look at why the topic. The agenda for the day, as we see, will be the introduction, why the topic, project management methodologies, the triple constraints, how to align the phases of project management and programs with finance, the component of project costs using IT project as example, the phases of IT project using SDLC, aligning finance with projects, programs, and portfolio, and finally, the conclusion. Let me start by introducing myself. As you see me, unfortunately, I cannot show the video today, so I will go right away to the introduction. My name is Robert Sasi Gidisu, and I am PMP certified. I had my PMP in September 2008. I am also holding a certification in SOX compliance in internal controls from the Saban Osley Institute. I hold a master's in finance from the Johns Hopkins University, Maryland, USA. I hold a graduate certificate in investment from the same university. I am also a product of the Land Economy Department in Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi. Now, the question we come to first is, why this topic? Finance plays a major role in every endeavor of us human beings, be it in our personal lives or in corporations. Finance does play a vital role. And today, if you look at Mother Ghana and the government, emphasis is being placed on value for money for every single endeavor or project that is actually delivered. If we are actually going to be talking about value for money, then we need to understand the principles that govern value for money, and that is financial management. So now the definition will come, or one will ask, what is financial management? And I will define it simply as this. Financial management is the process of estimating and justifying costs in order to secure funds, controlling expenditure, and evaluating the outcomes. There is one major thing that we need to understand when it comes to financial management. The financial structure of any project, program, or portfolio takes or may take different forms, but the financial management process is common to all. And that is exactly what we're going to be looking at. As I said earlier on, why the topic? The topic is chosen because value for money is something that is very important for every endeavor, every project we deliver. We need to know that. Now, I will go straightforward, having defined what financial management is, and see how we can align finance. And so that as project managers, when we start talking about project management, and we go to the businesses that are going to actually be giving us the money to do the projects, we can be able to talk with them so that they understand and know that we do know what we are talking about. We are not just delivering products, or we are not just delivering services, but we do understand that there are implications with financial management when it comes to projects. So now I move to project management methodologies. As most of you know already, you are PMs, and so I will not want to bore you by going through the definitions of what waterfall project management methodology is, or what agile project management methodology is. You already know them, but I will want us to look at them from the finance point of view. As a finance person and practicing finance, I know for sure that the waterfall methodology is something that is the traditional way that people are used to. And as you know, when we use the waterfall for mature products or products that are already in existence, it's so easy for us to deliver. And finance people are always looking forward that whatever we are bringing to them, we should be able to frame the numbers and tell them that this is how much it's going to cost us, so that as we deliver, they can be able to measure that. Let's also remember that most finance organizations are concerned with budget constraints, and they deal with budgets within physical years. So therefore, if we are talking about any particular project, they want to know how it's going to cost us and how it's going to be impacting the financial reporting on monthly basis. And waterfall happens to be one of the ones that the finance professionals really like best, because it helps them to be able to predict what will happen. Agile, as you all know, most of the cases are used for products that are new, which we don't know how they're going to be like. So we go through sprints. And so we are able to determine the cost of every sprint, but we are not able to determine how much it will cost us in total. That does not go well with most finance professionals, especially corporate bodies, because it is difficult for them to predict how we're going to spend that money. That notwithstanding, as project managers, we need to give corporate institutions or the business that we work for the assurance that whatever methodology we are using, we will end up being able to deliver our projects, managing the projects financially well. At the end of the day, there are two things we should always remember. If we deliver a project and we are not able to manage the finances well, we will not be patted on our shoulders for doing a good job. That takes me to the next level that we need to look at. Every project, as we all know, have triple constraints. As we know, the scope is there, and the scope will determine the schedule and the budget. The time is there. The time will determine the schedule, and the cost is also there, and the cost will determine the budget. One of the interesting things that we're going to be talking about here is that because resources are very, very difficult to come by, and corporate bodies are always squeezing, telling us to come out with our business cases, whatever financial methodology that we use to select the right projects, be it using the MPV or IRR or payback period or stage capital infusion, whatever we are using, it is very important for us to understand that finance does play a very significant role. If we do not understand how we align our finance with this, then we may not be doing the right thing as we should be doing as project managers. So scoping, as we all know, will help us to be able to estimate the cost of a project. And when we estimate the cost of the project very well, that will help us to know if we will be going over or under the scope based on new scope that will be introduced. For instance, if you have a project with a scope and the business comes in with another scope, that scope the business is coming in will trigger a lot of things. One, it can trigger schedule changes and it can trigger costs. And as finance people, as project managers, we need to understand this, that anytime the business asks us for an incremental scope or a change request, we need to understand the impact of the financial impact. If we do not really do this, what will happen is that the delivery time will be impacted and the project will be impacted. And most of the cases, we will hear them telling us, oh, there are so much cost overruns over this project. But if there are cost overruns, are they as a result of us not estimating very well, or they are as a result of change of scope? This is very, very critical. And as project managers, it is very important for us to understand this, that when we are costing our projects, we align them very well. And when new scope comes in as a result of business coming in with new things, we need to be able to cost those new scopes. And when the project do go over the initially approved budget, we need to be able to justify that financially. In addition, when we actually schedule projects, there will be interdependencies. And these interdependencies will really determine the cost of the project. So if some of the dependencies are lagging behind, the question that comes in is, are we going to be crashing these projects? If we are going to crash the projects, that will mean cost. Then the other thing we should be asking ourselves in is, can we do it within the approved budget? If that is not going to be done within the approved budget, we need to really bring all the stakeholders in and ask for new budgets for the incremental work or the crashing of the project to bring it online for us to deliver on time and not to jeopardize with the quality of the project. So finance is very critical when it comes to the triple constraints, because at the end of the day, when we go to ask corporate bodies or the business for more money, they may not have the money, and that will jeopardize the quality of the product, also the functionality that we are supposed to be producing. So it's very, very important for us to align our financials with the scope, time, and cost. This moves me to the next level, which is the phases of projects, programs, and portfolios. Each project will always start with the initiation or the concept level, where an idea comes in thinking of doing something. When that idea comes in and we are about to do it, we need to take into consideration the financial implications. That is where we need to be able to look at it as to whether we can be able to do without going with that project, or we really need to do it. If we really need to do it, we need to think about how we are going to fund it. The same way, there is the planning phase. The planning phase is how we are going to be executing the project. At that point, it's very critical for finance to be aligned. If finance is not aligned, then there is a problem on how we're going to deliver the project. If we just take it that give us the money and we will go and deliver the project without actually aligning the financials of how we're going to spend the money, during the planning phase. There comes a challenge when it comes to the execution. Controlling becomes a problem, and we are not able to do that. Besides that, the question that will come into mind is, are we going to adopt a one-time action for fund where we go and we just get all the money at once and start a project? Or we can do what is called stage capital infusion. Let me use a real estate project for example, and let's look at it. Let's say you are going to start building a community, let's say of houses, and you need to acquire the land. After acquisition of the land, you need to start work on the development itself. And when you start with the development, you will think about finishing the foundations, taking the superstructure, completing the roofing, and then doing the finishing, which is the internals. As somebody who is looking at it from finance point of view, you should have in mind that when you go and you take all the money at once from the banks or the syndication of banks that you are going to be using to finance that project, you will start paying interest right up front. But you could really have a plan with the banks where you will come with stage capital infusion, where you say, okay, I need money to acquire the land. And that acquisition will cost me so much. So you can go and talk about, the entire funds that you need for the project. And if you get the funding, you say for the next 6 months, all I need is only 30% of the funding. And they will give you a line of credit to the tune of what you need. In that case, you will get charged finance charges on only the funds you are using, not the entire amount. This will be a prudent way to manage your financials with that project. In that case, you will not be incurring so much cost in finance. And after all, if you execute the project and your finance cost is so high, the fees you are paying for getting the money is so high, then the bottom line is not going to be good. So you may not be getting the value you actually wanted to get from it. So this is very, very important for you to align your finances with that. Now, when it comes to the execution phase, it is equally very, very important for us to align with the finances. This is where baselining the budget in the planning phase is very important. Now you go back to the baseline and say, this is exactly how I thought initially I was going to be running my financials. Is my baseline true up to the execution phase right now? If it is not, how do I need to realign that right now and ensure that I am able to comply with the reporting? Let's remember that as we deliver the project, the executives want to make sure that, or the sponsors of the project want to make sure that at any stage we are getting value for that. And that is where we will be talking about end value management and stuff. But that is not the topic for today. The topic for today is just aligning finance with project, program, and portfolio management. At another time, when we get the opportunity, we'll be looking at project controlling or project financial controlling, and we will talk into details how to deliver project on cost. But this particular one is to be able to look at where we are, to be able to report to the executives and tell them that we are in the execution phase. Initially, this is how we thought things were going to be like. But as it is now, we are not going to be going over the budget, but we will be realigning based on the fact that some things have changed since we first planned the project. That takes me to the monitoring and control aspect. The monitor and control aspect of the financials is very, very, very important. That is where we hold people accountable for whatever they are doing. In that case, we are saying that we've given you a set of budget for you to deliver some particular deliverables. During the execution phase, you are doing the delivering part. It is the responsibility of the finance team in the project management group or even the project manager to ensure that they are delivering as they are going. So they monitor the cost and the schedule and also the scope itself to ensure that things are aligning. And when you come to the closing part of the project, you may want to align and make sure that you are doing the right thing. This is where what we call post-implementation review comes in. Before you even close the project, you may set yourself up to do the post-implementation review, which we call the PIR. The PIR is just looking at the project and looking at the financial aspect and say each of the functionalities that we intended delivering, how have we delivered those functionalities? And is the financial aligned with it? Now, at that point, you will even be looking at the vendors that you have actually engaged because of legal issues. If you're about to close a project and you do not look at all the vendors you have aligned, all the purchase orders you have in place, and ensure that they are in line with what they are supposed to be doing, and you close the project, and later on a vendor comes and say, hey, you owe me so much, but you think you didn't owe that vendor, that becomes a legal issue. And that could really um, hold the company ransom, and the company will have to pay so much. So even at the closing phase of the project, it is very, very, very important for you to align your finance with the project. Having talked about this, I think we see clearly that from the initiation to the planning to the execution, monitoring and control, and also closing, which are the phases of projects, programs, and portfolios, it is very important to align your finances. Because if you do not align them, you may not get the value that you are supposed to be getting. And this takes me to the next slide, the knowledge areas of project management. When we say at this point, why do you want to bore us with all this? We are project management managers, excuse me. We already know what project scope management is all about, time management is all about, cost management is all about, quality management and so forth are all about. Why do you want to bore me with that? It is very, very important for us to talk about this as well. Let's look at scope management, for instance. Scope really determines a lot of things in the project. So if you're not aligning your financials, project financials with the scope management, you will end up not getting the value you are supposed to be doing. Time management. It is equally very important for us to look at the time management, but because resources, the cost of a project will be determined on the time we are on the project. And it's also very important for us to align that so that we can be able to get the best out of it. So it is with cost management. Then we come to quality management. Look, at the end of the day, when we deliver a project financially on scope, on time, and the cost, and we compromise the quality, we have not achieved anything. Because the value we will be getting from any project is going to be dependent upon the quality of that project. So we are very, very critical when it comes to quality. We don't want to be penny wise and pound full. When we are doing everything, we should have in mind that it is not just delivering the project on time. What benefit we will get, shall we get if we deliver the project on time, but the quality is not good? What benefits shall we gain if we deliver the scope, the original scope of the project, and the quality is not good. What benefit shall we get even if we run the budget below what we originally estimated, but the quality is not good? I don't think any business will want us to deliver projects like that. What they expect from us as project managers is that we should deliver the scope. Even if there is incremental scope, we should deliver, the quality that they need. We should deliver on time, because if we do not deliver on time, some projects are really very time sensitive. And let's remember that we have competitors out there who are trying to outwit us every day. So if we do not deliver on time, it is a problem. When we deliver the cost of the project more than the cost that we can afford, then the bottom line will not look good. The revenues will come in, but since the cost is more than the revenue, we will be running at a loss. So it is very, very important for us to deliver our projects on quality, taking the financials into consideration. Then that takes me to the human resources aspect. We cannot take the financial aspect of the human resources management out. It is very, very important for us to align our finances with the human resources. That tells me if we will be using the resources internally or externally. If we are using the resources internally, are we using the resources from the project, or we are in a matrix environment, or we are even trying to use functional leads to be able to do the project? This will all let us know how to align the finances with the project. Communications management. It is equally very important, because one of the things project managers do most of the cases is communication. 90% of the times, project managers should be communicating, and communication is all about cost. So we should know how we align our financials with the communications as well. Risk management, it is very, very important, because as we are looking at the risks of delivering the project, the financial risk is equally very, very important. Procurement. When we are looking at the procurement management, that's why I earlier on alluded to from the fact that we should be looking at it from whether we are going to be using internal resources or we are going to be using external vendors. And even if we are using external vendors, we should be asking ourselves some questions. What kind of contract are we going to be going with them? Are we going to be going with time and material, which has its own advantages and disadvantages? Or we are going to be going with fixed prices, fixed sales, which has its own advantages? Or we are going to be doing a combination of time and material and fixed sales? Stakeholders management. Let's remember that stakeholders are always fighting for their pet deliverables or their pet functions in a project. And each of them, if we don't manage them from the financial point of view, will end up impacting the project financially. So it's equally very important to align the financials. So if a stakeholder comes and say, I need this, or I don't need this any longer, they all have implications, financial implications, and we need to align as such. So as project managers, when we align our finances with all these knowledge areas, we have no choice but to deliver the project with great value. And at any point in time that we deliver a project with great value, our stock goes high. Any point in time they will want us on projects, and that is where we become so hot. If we are consultants, what this does for us is that we will be hot in the market, and people will always want us to be able to help them deliver their projects. That is what is critical for us as project managers, to align our financials with all the knowledge areas of project management. This takes me to the next area, and that is IT components, IT project cost component. The reason why I want to go into this area, you can apply it in every field that you are in, is because I am in IT side and I do understand that side better. So this does not mean that this knowledge cannot be used in any other field. I earlier on alluded to this when I was actually doing the explanation on the knowledge areas. Every typical IT project has these components: internal labor, which we use the internal resources to do. And that could be in a projectized environment where we have dedicated resources actually doing the work on the project. Or it could be in a matrix environment when we have some people being our project dedicated full 100% to the projects, and some resources are moved from the functional areas. And then we have the external labor component, which is made up of time and material and also fixed costs. There is also another component of that, which will be the fixed costs and variable costs combined. And another aspect of any IT project will be the software. And this we get it from the codes and the sales that we sign for the softwares that we will be using in those projects. We equally have the hardware component. It is very important that when we are doing a project, we align this with the financials. That's what I alluded to earlier on. So when you take a real estate project, for instance, you will have the cost of acquiring the land, the cost of development itself, the cost of actually if doing the finishes, the cost of marketing and all those components. You need to be able to, cost your project and know what your project is made up of, and then align the finances. That would determine on how you seek the funding from the corporate body. You could go in for the full funding, but actually ask for trenches or stage capital infusion just to be able to mitigate the fees that you will be paying on that. It is very important that because most of the cases there are legal implications, and legal issues mean financials. In this part of the world that I am here, the rule of law does work very well here. So vendors are able to take people to court or companies to court when they are not satisfied with what is going on. So it is very important for any person that is actually signing a contract with a vendor to understand the terms of the sale, if possible, help in the creation of the purchase requisition, which will eventually become the purchase order that will show how the goods and services will be delivered. That is very, very critical for the financial management. Then this takes me to the next level, which is OPEX versus CAPEX. There are projects that we do that will be OPEX, and there are projects that we do that will be CAPEX. What I mean by OPEX is that projects that we do that will be for operational activities, and projects that we do that will become an asset for the company. And let me take my time to explain this. The OPEX versus CAPEX thing is this way. When you have an OPEX project, the cost will actually be used up or expended in the very year that you are actually doing that project. When you have a CAPEX project, when you create a project, it becomes an asset for the company. And when the asset is within the company, it's moved from the CIP, which is construction in progress, to the fixed asset and depreciated over time. So not all the cost is incurred within a year. It's very important that when you a project manager, you are doing the project, you understand this. If you do not understand the type of project you're doing, what happens is that when you go asking for the funding, you will not be able to align properly with the business. So if you understand what is made up of what is OPEX project and what is capital project, you will be able to see how to go. Let me use real estate project for example. You have a an estate that in here you are going to be doing some painting and some changing of bulbs in the estate that you are managing. That will not be considered capital, because that will be part of your routine maintenance cost. But let's say you are going to do significant work in terms of changing the use of some of the properties, or maybe doing major repairs on the project. That could be considered capital. And capital work, when you do it, the cost will not, even though you have the cost being incurred any year, from finance point of view, the way they look at this is different. So if you're seeking for funding for a capital project, the way the business look at it is different from the way they look at it when you are actually seeking for funding for an operational project. Because the operational project cost will impact the bottom line in year. And that will really be something that we don't want to see most of the cases. The capital project will not impact the bottom line, but it will increase the assets of the balance sheet, which is the assets of the company. So you need to understand all this. And when you understand all that, it will help you to be able to convince your business or stakeholders to be able to get the funding. So let me give some rough idea or some slight idea of IT that I know very well. One may be construed as OPEX versus CAPEX. The concept development to business requirement will be considered as OPEX. So if you go seeking for money for concept development, the business is most of the case hesitant to give you money because they know that it is going to impact the bottom line. But it is your responsibility to be able to convince them why you need to look at that. Change management, for instance, which is training and communication, is considered OPEX because you're not building anything. Basically, what you are doing is communicating information and also letting people know what is going on or training people to be able to do things. So you are not really enhancing anything. But for instance, if you are building an environment or developing the training manual or tools or document, that will be considered CAPEX. Let's also consider, for instance, if build one particular platform and you are migrating or moving the data from that platform to another platform, that will be considered OPEX. And most of the cases, you need to convince them and let them know why you are doing it and the implication if you don't do it, the how it will impact the company if you don't do it. So building of environment for migration will be considered CAPEX. For the sake of the fact that most of the people here may not be IT people, I will just run through this and probably just let you see quickly. Ongoing support and warranty and support after warranty will be considered OPEX. Cost for functional requirement will be considered CAPEX. Cost for business requirement will be considered OPEX. System specification document is considered CAPEX. And development cost itself is CAPEX. And hardware and software maintenance are OPEX. Let's say, and in IT, those of you are in the IT world, if you go in and you acquire hardware and software and you buy the maintenance that is support associated, which is the support, that will be considered CAPEX and OPEX rather. SaaS agreement, which is software as a service or platform as a service, will all be considered OPEX. Testing, which is QA testing, integration testing, regression testing, UAT, BRT will be considered CAPEX. Release and implementation will be considered CAPEX. War room support will be considered OPEX, but break fixes drawing, the implementation is considered CAPEX. Now, why is this very important? OPEX CAPEX differentiation is very important because one impacts the other. For instance, in IT, internal labor work on capital projects impacts the bottom line of the OPEX. Capital projects that have been scrapped impacts the OPEX as well. So it's very, very important that as we look at projects that we are going to propose to our business folks that we want to do, we actually align with them. This may not apply to many PMs, but program managers and portfolio managers, this may apply to you. So it's very important for you to take note of this as we go on. That takes me to the next line. The phases of an IT project, and as I said, there will be phases for different projects, but I'm using IT project as an example for us to align with. Most IT projects use the SDLC, which is system development life cycle approach. They go with the requirement gathering through the scoping, go through the solutioning and designing, go through the development or the coding phase, go through the testing, which will include the integration, QA, UAT, and BRT, getting the business readiness for the project to be released, and then they go through the release or implementation, which sometimes is called the go live. It is very critical for us to align these financials, with all these phases, because if we do not align very well, we may finish the project, but we may not get the value that we need for it. That is why it is very, very critical for us to align with all the phases of the project, be it an IT project, real estate project, even a community development project, whatever it is. You can look at this as a guidance, or as a way for you to be able to break your project into the different phases as it applies in your industry, so that you can be able to achieve the target you want to achieve and get the value you want for the project. As I said earlier on, if we do this well, we will be hot in the market, and that is all we want to do. This takes me to the next line, which is very, very important. Alignment of finance with project management or program management. Let's remember that portfolios, projects, and programs all compete for money. And as they compete for money, because we don't have all the money to be able to do all the projects we want to do. So it is very important for us to be able to align our financials, and that would be helping us to be able to do the business cases, because the business cases is what give us the funding. If we cannot be able to speak to our business cases, we will never be able to get the funding, unless of course somebody is just saying that, I'm going to give you the funding regardless of what it is, for you to just go and do whatever you want with it. But that's not the case. Most institutions will require that you present a business case that is very convincing, that will show them the value that you're going to get from the money that they are spending. And so it is very important for us to align finance with it. So my point here is that understanding the project program scope is very important. If you don't understand that, you cannot align the finance with it. And once you understand it, you can align the finance with it. Secondly, understanding the schedules is very, very important, because the schedules has financial implications. Delay or even moving it faster than you wanted it will always draw financial implications. Understanding the program budget, which is the initial budget, which is basically the baseline, is very, very important. And when you align the project with the program budget, or with the initial budget that you are given, that will give you some comfort as you go into the execution phase and the controlling phase. Aligning the program schedule with the budget is very, very critical, and aligning your forecast as you are in the execution phase with the program or project schedule is equally very, very important. One note that we need to be aware of is we need to take note of major deliverables or milestones in the program or project, because not aligning the finance with them will make us not really be able to report accurately, and that may be triggering some flags that are not necessary. For instance, if you have a project that you have delivered a milestone and your spend is far, far behind, what that may mean is that you have surplus budget, but that may not be the case. That's why aligning is very, very important. Or if you have a deliverable that you have delivered and your cost is very high at that point, that may not mean that you are having cost overrun. It's just that maybe some of the items or big bucket or big bucket items have already been and purchased, especially if you're buying hardware and software. But you need, that's why aligning the schedule with the forecast is really very, very important. In that case, they will not bring these false alarms that senior executives or senior leadership may be thinking that, or the business that you are doing the project for may be thinking that there are issues when in reality there are no issues. So let's take note of that. We now come to the end of this. And unfortunately, we are not able to have questions. But if you have any questions or you have any suggestions, my email is there, gidisu@rogers.com. You can always contact me and we can take it from there. Now, I move to the next level, which is if you want to claim your PDU, you can send your email to vp.profdevelopment@pmighana.org and you can have that. The professional development unit will be able to guide you on how to claim your PDUs. Once again, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all for spending your 1 hour with me. I want to say that there will be more things that we can do together. So let's work together. This may probably not be the end, but as a team, I think we can deliver. I noticed that there are so many things that we can do as a group to be able to achieve the best for us as a group. And I'm available anytime to contribute in any way I can to contribute to the development of project management in Ghana. On another note, I am in the telecom sector here in Canada, specifically the IT side of telecom. And I am involved in every major initiative there, managing the financial aspect of major initiatives in the company. I also manage the the IT budget itself and also the media IT budget. So if you have any information to share with me or you have any suggestions for me, as I said earlier on, you can send me an email at gidisu@rogers.com and I will be happy to get back to you. Thank you and have a great evening. God richly bless you all.